All right, so Raisor, I'm a pretty big fan of your videos. I've enjoyed quite a few of them. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, well, my name is RaisorBlade. I've been a movie critic on YouTube for about 8 years now. Believe it or not, this is not the first YouTube channel I've started. I tried making YouTube channels in the past, but they just never got off the ground until 2016 when I finally started taking this thing a little more seriously.
Yeah, is there any like specific stuff that you go over in particular with movies?
I like to be able to review and talk about whatever I like, but I usually do have like ongoing series. Like I did the Land for Time sequels all in a row, then I did direct-to-video Disney sequels. Now I'm doing the live-action remakes. But like every once in a while, we'll break off and do something I am very passionate about, like either one-offs or stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, I try to do the same thing where I'll try to keep a consistent series. Like I'll try to do like different movies in a series, but then at the same time I'll be doing other movies at the same time. So we're pretty much alike in that category.
We also have TV shows to talk about. Like Dragons of Nine Realms kind of caught me off guard. That was supposed to just be some small thing, but I don't know if you noticed, the first season's video is my most popular video. It's sitting at over 2.8 million views. So I'm like, well, I'd be an idiot to not talk about the rest of the show.
Yeah, I love How to Train Your Dragon. That whole entire series. I never watched the new one which you were talking about, but I enjoy everything else.
You don't. If you love it, if you love and appreciate anything about How to Train Your Dragon, don't watch Nine Realms. You will be absolutely flabbergasted.
What do you think about the live action adaptation in the works?
I don't know what to think about it, because like I love Dean Dubois. I think he's a talented dude. Like, what else is gonna happen other than they're just gonna redo the same movie? It's just gonna be worse looking. Like, there's just, I'm not excited for it at all. I'm mostly just numb to it at this point, because that's all Hollywood does now. It's not just Disney; everyone else is doing it too with remakes and reboots. It's just, that's where we are now in Hollywood. We're in this severe position of stagnation, where everything has to be remade or rebooted or given a sequel series or a follow-up or something. There's hardly any new original ideas. That's not to say there's no original ideas. There are original ideas still here and there, but like today they just announced the next Jurassic Park movie, which everyone's just saying, no, Dominion was terrible. Yeah. Can we just stop, please?
The only reason I'm kind of excited for that is just because it's Gareth Edwards and I'm a massive fan of his work, so hopefully he can harken it back to maybe more of a horror movie, but if it's more of what Dominion was or the one that was Fallen Kingdom, then it will be awful.
Yeah, like for me, Gareth Edwards is a good director, but I don't think he's ever been a great storyteller, because like I remember like the Godzilla movie he made was okay, but it wasn't about Godzilla, and the human characters sucked, and I don't remember a single one about them. Then you have Rogue One, which was very slow and dull in the first half, honestly, but the second half really picks up with the cinematography, the action sequences, like that. Like, the characters weren't awful, and to be fair, it did give us Andor, which was actually incredible. I actually loved Andor a lot. And I think, honestly, now that I've seen Andor, maybe I should rewatch Rogue One, because I have a new appreciation for it.
Yeah, do that once Season 2 comes out.
Yeah.
I liked his work on The Creator. I thought for a Hollywood budget. Now, a lot of people like to compare the whole Godzilla -1, how that did it with a $15 million budget, and that's impressive.
Yeah.
But I think for the budget Gareth Edwards had for his Hollywood movie, that was even more impressive almost. He only did it for like $67 million, but the way that he did it, where it was all shot on location, the CGI was absolutely phenomenal, I think, for that amount of a budget. It was blowing out all sorts of movies that last year. Godzilla -1 was better, but I still think The Creator was pretty underrated from last year.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's fantastic. I recommend it.
Right. Okay.
So I guess with that being said, the live action Disney movies is what I've asked you to talk about with me. What are your thoughts about this series?
Oh boy, where do I start? It started off with, here's the thing. I said this in my Alice in Wonderland review. Remakes and reboots are not inherently a bad idea. But what you need to do is you need to take it in a new, unique direction. Like, I know some people are probably going to give me shit for this. I've gotten plenty of comments about it, but Look at Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a show I actually really like. I know TMNT fans aren't the biggest fan of the Rise show, but I personally really enjoy it because it takes the characters in a brand new direction. It takes risk and tries things with them. Like the whole show isn't perfect, I won't say that, but it is a very unique direction they take it into. Like, I mean, the animation is absolutely insane. Like, I'm sure at least people can agree the animation in that show is incredible. The things they do with Shredder and Splinter and stuff. And then there was the movie, which took the Krang and took him into these, made him into these unstoppable, unrelenting monsters. And they did a great thing with Leo's arc and stuff like that. I just think it's really good because it did something new. It took a unique chance. It was a bold risk, but I think it paid off. And that's the thing about these live action Disney remakes, that for a while, like in the beginning, like with Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent, for all of the I give those movies, they at least take chances. Like, because Alice in Wonderland is different than the original. It's a darker, more grittier take and stuff. Maleficent is a different take than the original movie. It still follows the basic plot line, but it does change certain elements of the character and the story. It sucks. It still sucks at the end, but I won't say it's just a bone by bone remake of the original, which, starting with movies like The Jungle Book, that's where it goes off from there, where there's less chances being taken, less risk, and they just, from that point on, it's like Aladdin, you have Lion King, you have Beauty and the Beast. All these movies just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to these live action remakes, I'm in total agreement when it comes to that. It started off as kind of this cool thing they did once in a while, because like Alice in Wonderland started it, and then they would do it like every 2 years or 3 years, if I'm remembering correctly. It wasn't, let's do 4 movies every single year like they did with 2019, and then the next year, and then the next year.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah, the time gap between Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent was actually 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but then you have the Cinderella remake, which came out in 2015. Jungle Book came out in 2016. Beauty and the Beast was in 2017. I think the Pete's Dragon one, I remember that one recently, came out, I think either in 2017 or 18, I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think from Maleficent, it was kind of a yearly trend from here on out.
Okay, so I'm just misremembering. But, yeah, I'm in agreement. When it first started, it was a pretty good idea, I think, because I mean they were doing this back in the 90s and in the early 2000s. You have 101 Dalmatians 1 and 2. You have the many remakes of the Jungle Book that Disney has done, or they've licensed for their own streaming service. But I do agree where the more it goes on, the more it angers me, because it's not that they're taking the original and kind of mixing it up, kind of like a Maleficent, where it's like, if you don't like it, it's not really a big slap in the face to the original. But now you have something like Pinocchio, which, I mean, I thought was just a travesty of filmmaking. That was absolutely awful.
Yeah, I reviewed that one already. That one was very, very painful to watch. And yes, there's also the fact that, like you said, back in the 90s and 2000s, this was a very rare, every once in a blue moon kind of thing they did, and they still did change things up. They did something different, but now it's just getting lazier and lazier.
Yeah. So I guess with that being said, let's start from the beginning, from where it all started. Alice in Wonderland, 2010. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, like I said, I made a review of this already, but essentially saying overall, I did not like it. I don't hate it or anything. I don't like it. I consider it to be a very flawed movie, very dull. I find the characters to be very boring. I said perhaps my hottest take of the video. I don't think Johnny Depp was the best casting choice for the Mad Hatter. I think you could have had someone like Mark Hamill do it, that would have been like a nice blend with the direction that the direction they were going with that character. You can easily have like it's supposed to be like a weird heroic, insane guy. Like, imagine Mark Hamill in that role. It'd be like a mix between Luke Skywalker and Joker. It'd be a perfect blend right there. There you go. You got perfect casting right there. And that's not to say he's too old or anything. This is obviously an older, more jaded Mad Hatter, so having someone with Mark Hamill's age and range I think would have been really well. He's a good Mad Hatter. I'm not hating on him specifically, but I just didn't think he was the best and all the hyping and everything about it. Um, I think the film has a nice look to it. It's certainly one of the things that stands out the most about the film, and it's probably the reason why it won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects that year. Um, but I haven't seen the sequel yet, but I've seen the trailers, and it looks really bad comparatively to the first movie.
Yeah, we'll get to that and my thoughts on that, but I think Alice in Wonderland, it falls into the category of almost every single thing that all these movies have done, and it's forgettable. Like, it's not that you don't remember that there was a Alice in Wonderland movie remake. It's just that the whole movie is very forgettable in my opinion. There's things that I like that they take risks on. Like, I like that it's a little more of a darker tone. Um, Taking Alice and the original, some stuff in that original book were pretty dark.
I love the scene
But
where I love the scene where she actually crosses a head of like a lake of heads. That was actually kind of a cool scene.
yeah, like stuff like that, or like the one like mouse taking the eyeball out of the one creature. I always forget what his name was, but there was like uh, and then like her slaying the Jabberwocky. But the only thing I had a big issue is the movie's kind of confusing in multiple ways. Like, it's a remake of Alice in Wonderland, but at the same time, it's a suo sequel to the original in a way. And I was always confused about that as a kid because I never understood why it's like, why are we going through the same beats? But it's like, you're saying that people are remembering her. I never really got that.
Again, yeah, Tim Burton has to make it very clear. It's like this is not a sequel, it's not a reboot or anything. He doesn't even consider it a remake either. He doesn't consider it that. He just considers it to be its own unique interpretation of Alice in Wonderland itself. But as I said in my review, I don't think that's a good idea because what makes the story of Alice in Wonderland work is the fact that she's a child. Because you're seeing everything through the perspective of a child. That's Wonderland for you. Like everything, like from a child's perspective, makes sense, you know. But as an adult, it's like her mind has changed, you know. Like the only time this really worked as an adult was in the American McGee Alice in Wonderland, but that's because that was the point that she was an adult. That because she was being driven mad by like terrible events in her life.
Yeah, and they actually had like moments. I think there was like flashbacks to when Alice was trying to remember like when she already went through Wonderland, and I think that they casted perfectly for that role. And I don't understand. Like, I mean, I understand that people get mad at when you say shot for shot remake, but I feel like a shot for shot remake would have been way better than what we had.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say that because at least there's things that stand out about this particular interpretation. I don't know if I would say, as for a shot for shot remake, I think people would just roll their eyes and this whole trend would have been dead in the water on the spot. Because back then, you gotta keep in mind this was before Disney owned Star Wars and Marvel and stuff. So when Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion at the box office, that was a big deal. And not to mention that movies weren't always making $1 billion back then. Nowadays, it's every year. Nowadays, we get like what 10 movies that make $1 billion a year nowadays. But back then, Alice in Wonderland was like the sixth or seventh film to ever do it. It was a huge milestone, and for Disney, that was a big deal. And that's only talking about the box office. We're not talking about the merch because surely you remember this film took off with people. Like, regardless of the quality of the film, like it resonated with audiences. People loved it. There was merch everywhere and Hot Topic, Walmart, everywhere.
Yeah, I remember it also did very well because this was at the start of when, or maybe it was near the end when 3D was still popular. So a lot of people that I knew went to go see it in 3D. I didn't because I never really liked 3D, but I remember this was another reason the movie made bank at the box office.
Yeah, that was definitely riding that bandwagon as well. That was another thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like, I wouldn't consider it one of the worst, but I wouldn't consider it one of the best either. It's kind of like in the middle there. Like, it's okay. It's not something that I would return to necessarily, but it's there. You know what I mean? It's not doing any active harm.
I would give it like a 4 out of 10. It's not a good movie, but I don't hate it or anything about it really.
Yeah, that's basically the same way I can sum it up as well. All right, so the next one, which is kind of a surprising one, is The Sorcerer's Apprentice. What do you think about this one?
I made another video about this one. The Here's the thing about this one. I had so little to say about Sorcerer's Apprentice that it hurt because for the first 30 so minutes, ignoring the cliched setup, I thought it was fun. For the first 30 so minutes, it's like, okay, so you have Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon just chilling with Nicolas Cage or Grug from The Croods. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of charming. It's got some fun elements here and there. Like, it's got some imaginative, cool ideas here and there. It's not just a remake of the Fantasia bit from the Fantasia movie. It's like its own thing. Absolutely, it very barely qualifies being counted as a remake. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Fantasia bit, like it's almost like this movie wanted to be its own thing, but Disney said make it about Fantasia, and they just had to shoehorn in that mop scene, which they definitely did. It's just thrown out of nowhere in the movie. But then
Yeah.
after that 30-minute mark, they find the MacGuffin of the film that I can't recall what it's called. It's like the little I don't know. It's like the I don't remember. It's like a map or a pod or something like that. It's like some MacGuffin they
Yeah.
need to keep the world from being destroyed. They get it, and then the movie just has nothing else to do. The movie is just kind of sit there in stagnation because it has no idea what to do with its story. Because now we just got, I guess, we got to train Hiccup to learn how to do magic, and there's no story here. There's just nothing to do with this movie. This movie has nothing to do. It's confused. The whole movie should have been about hunting the MacGuffin and fighting the villain and stuff like that, fighting Doc Ock. It's just like, but that's instead it's just training shenanigans, montages, girls. It's just nothing. Like the first half hour is actually kind of fun and charming, but like once they find the MacGuffin, the movie just stops being interesting. And then by the end of the movie, when they're finally doing the last battle, it's just over. There's no coming back from it because I just have lost all interest.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like it better than Alice in Wonderland, mostly because it's not as confusing of a movie. Um, but I do agree where it feels like it was trying to do its own thing, and then you have certain little scenes in there added for the sake of it being tied to the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia. But I mean, there's fun times to be had with the movie. I think like the car chase sequence is fun. The one part when the dragon is chasing him throughout the apartment, I think, looks pretty good even up to this day. Um, but it's definitely one of those movies where it's like, yep, that was a movie, you know.
There's just no story after that half hour mark. It just completely dies in the water. You know, there's
Yeah,
admittedly a couple of fun little Nicolas Cage moments here and there. Like there's that scene in the bathroom where he flicks his finger. He's like he makes that droop sound, and it's like he's like there's no way that sound effect was actually used. Like it's like there's the idea like again like if they actually had a real story, this could have been a very fun and charming movie, maybe an underrated gem, but it didn't go anywhere sadly. And I can see why the movie bombed as bad as it did because it didn't make a lot of money.
yeah, and I think this is when we're gonna start to see a lot of what these movies present is a big problem is the runtime. You're taking a movie that was, something like Dumbo, which was only like I don't know a 40-minute movie, maybe an hour. Something like Beauty and the Beast that was only maybe an hour and a half, or the Fantasia bit, which was only 10 minutes. Um, and then you're trying to expand that into this big thing, you're going to lose a lot of the charm that comes from it because first of all those classic movies everybody has watched at this point. That's what people realize. We're so engraved with Disney's culture at this point in our world that everybody knows, everyone can quote those movies. Everyone can quote the songs, the characters. But then you're trying to expand upon it, so definitely things can be lost there, in my opinion.
And again, we're also ignoring the fact that this was clearly meant to be its own independent movie, but then Disney kind of just shoehorned in the mop scene. So it very hardly counts as a remake, save for that one scene and the name of the movie.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I guess we're moving on to the next year, or the next one, which is 2014's Maleficent, which I do not like this movie. I really don't. I love the original Sleeping Beauty. I think that is one of their best animated movies that you could see the jump in quality that Walt had with his animation, his songs, the way that the characters were all natural. It's a lot like Pinocchio. Like the jump in quality from Snow White to Pinocchio is absurd. And then you see the jump in quality from the last movie to Sleeping Beauty. It's a lot like that as well.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauty took like 10 years to make.
Yeah. So when you're doing Maleficent, this was going to be an easy trick in the bag, I would have thought. This would have been one of their easiest live action remakes to make. And they butchered it, in my opinion.
They did, because they just fundamentally missed the appeal of Maleficent as a character. Everybody loves the fact that she's evil, you know? Everybody loves the fact that she is a brooding bad girl who decided she wanted to kill a baby simply for not being invited to a party. I said this in my review of Maleficent. It's like, this isn't a bad idea. Again, if you're gonna take the character in a new direction, you need to kind of keep her in light of being a villain. Okay, don't just redeem her or say she was misunderstood. You know, from the perspective of the people, she needs to be the villain. You know, like you need to kind of tie the ending of the story to that of the original movie, which is why, like, if you're gonna have a final battle, have her turn into a dragon, have her kill the king in a pretty brutal way. You know, have it to where the people of the kingdom are still going to see her as a villain, and in a weird way, she still kind of is. That in the end of the day, she's not a good person. She just has loyalties to this one person she cares about, but screw everyone else. It doesn't matter what happens to them or anyone else. Just as long as this one person she does care about safe, that's all that matters. But everyone else, forget them, and Maleficent just goes and does her own thing. As long as you keep the idea that she is very cold, she's very cruel to those she doesn't care about, then like that would work if you ask me, you know?
Yeah, like I think there's things in the movie that works. Like I think Angelina Jolie isn't a great Maleficent. Like I think she looks like Maleficent. I just don't like the way that she's portrayed in the movie, and I don't like the way that Angelina Jolie portrays Maleficent, but I like the way she looks. Like she looks like Maleficent. Um I think there's certain shots that really are nice in the movie. Like when Aurora first meets Maleficent in the woods and all you see are her beady eyes, like that's really nice. Um, and I think that, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of falls in the same category for a lot of other ones, in my opinion, where it's forgettable. The only thing I remember really is the beginning, how you learn that she was her own little creature. She had wings, and then the king took the wings, and kind of silly drama that nobody really cares about.
It wasn't the king, it was her boyfriend, actually. The boyfriend took the wings because he wanted to be the king. He wanted to be the new king anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
there you go. How much the story reckons with me.
Yeah, it's Stefan. He's the villain of the story, apparently. And like, again, you could have made it to where, like, that's the thing. They just kind of write Stefan off as just some a-hole, some greedy a-hole, and wants the throne, and that's it. When you could have really played into his complexities, like, like maybe he's torn between like his family and stuff like that. Maybe he fell in love with a different woman. Like actually show him like kind of like have some regret maybe. But no, he just devolves into some crazy lunatic who, by the way, has very little to no interaction with Maleficent following the throne room scene where she curses Aurora. So not a fun villain in that regard, anyway. And then on top of that, the story just kind of keeps going back and forth. And for a movie that kept hyping up to be this epic fantasy, maybe in the same veins as like Harry Potter or Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, it's like there's really not a lot of fantasy stuff going on, honestly. Like at least in terms of like action, like the movie will cut to a dumb little fight scene here and there, but they're very brief. They kind of get over with themselves very quickly. And on top of all that, they give Maleficent all these incredible magical powers that when the final fight shows up, it's like she's so OP, and yet the only reason she loses the fight is because, well, we gotta give her wings back. Aurora has to save the day. When Maleficent could just nuke the whole room if she wanted to, because she's that strong, and the movie showcased that.
Yeah, I just for Sleeping Beauty, I love the original, and the ending of Sleeping Beauty is still one of the most exciting that Disney has done for an ending. Like when Prince, I always forget the prince's names, but
Philip.
When the prince, Philip, yes, Philip. When Philip is like, charging in and he's getting stuck in the weeds and the thorns, and then he has to fight the dragon. Like that's exciting. And this movie didn't do that. I was so mad that they didn't accomplish that exciting ending. Instead, it kind of uh, starts and then it falls really flat real fast.
Yeah, the original movie. I actually made a video talking about the original ending of Sleeping Beauty, specifically that like highlights the music. The score is so incredible. The dialogue is insane. Like Maleficent drops the hardest line in Disney history right there, essentially before that final battle. And then like you have the sound effects. Like they don't just use normal animal sound effects or anything. They use like cymbal crashes. They use an actual
Mm.
World War II flamethrower to simulate her fire breathing. Like they use like
Yeah, when
real
like
good
the
effects.
lightning crashes, they use like the giant symbols. I always remember that because it scared me as a
Yes.
kid.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's so unique. It gives it such a nice energy. It has a nice hit to it. And that after 70 years, it still just resonates so powerfully. It's crazy.
Yeah, and
It's
to think, I mean, that movie came out in the
55,
50s?
1955, I believe. I could be wrong. I don't
Yeah.
remember off the top of my head.
I don't either, but I mean, like everything about the original Sleeping Beauty is still one of the best animated movies of all time, in my opinion. I would put that up there.
It is the true definition of the word timeless.
It is, and I mean, I don't know if necessarily like you bring up an interesting point with Alice in Wonderland about like the hot topic and about how it like created a whole culture. Do you think because of that, that's why they went with the way they did with Maleficent? Like they wanted to create kind of another like, I guess for the goth people, would this appeal to?
I don't know if I would say that. This movie wanted to be the next Wicked, essentially, because Wicked was a very
Oh
popular
yeah.
play, and I guess Disney saw the popularity of Wicked, which, to be fair, was already a pretty popular play for like 10 years at that point. It came out like in 2003, I believe. So,
Hmm.
but I guess they just saw the idea and decided to run with it. I don't know why specifically. I don't know if I'd say it's Alice in Wonderland, but I mean, the movie's success definitely inspired them to make more live action remakes, not just Maleficent. But as for connecting the merchandising of Alice in Wonderland to Maleficent's culture, I'm not sure I would say that.
All right. Well, I mean, it did well. I think it made close to $700 million, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Um, so decent, but not Alice in Wonderland's a billion.
Still a lot of
So I
money for
guess,
them.
it's still insane. So this is when we come to what you were saying, how they started to do per year. So next year's was Cinderella, 2015. Um, I
I
actually really enjoy Cinderella.
I have not watched this one yet. It's next
Oh,
on
you
my
haven't?
list. It's next on my list. Like that's the next one I'm reviewing, but I have yet to see it. I don't know. I just never really had any interest in watching it because I I don't really like the original all that much, to be honest with you. I find it to be a very boring movie and not a great retelling of Cinderella at all. Like 80% of the movie is just Tom and Jerry shenanigans.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you don't like that part of the movie, that's cut out completely in the live action version. There's nothing to do with the mice or the
Yeah,
bird or
I
the
figured
cat.
that it was. I figured that it is actually focusing on Cinderella in the remake. I've heard good things about it here and there, like how it is actually focusing on the story of Cinderella, how it actually develops the character of Cinderella. You know.
It develops the character of the prince actually too. Like there's a lot of scenes with the prince himself before they meet. There's points in time where Cinderella and the prince meet before the big ball, so it's a lot more of um, a slow build to the romance. It's not just oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful woman at the ball, let me marry you,
Right.
sort of
I don't even know your
ordeal.
name.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but I enjoy it. I think it's one of their better ones. Um, but it does suffer from, like I was saying, just very forgettable and boring, just like every other live action Disney remake.
Like I said, I'll have to see it before I can judge it.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend it. All right. So then we had on 2016, The Jungle Book. What do you think about this one?
So far, out of all the ones I've seen, this is so far the only one I would call a good one, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because on a technical level, this is an absolutely drop dead gorgeous movie. Like, you can tell this is why Disney wanted the people who made this movie to go do the Lion King, because on a technical level, it's insanely good looking. This is a beautiful movie, like from the CGI perspective. You also got to give credit to the child actor. I can't remember his name. It's like Zeth something. But like this is a kid actor working up against entirely CGI models, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
I think that it's incredible that the only thing that in that movie that's CGI is like a couple of the limbs and the branches that Mowgli stands on, and then Mowgli himself. Everything else, I remember being blown away by this in 2016. Obviously, we have in 2019's The Lion King, which blows this out of the water, technically wise. But I mean, as far as what the Jungle Book did, I don't think it was bad because it took bits and elements of the original Disney movie. And it didn't do the shot for shot remake. So there's things like how Mowgli stays in the jungle at the end of the movie. He doesn't
Right.
go to the village. Um,
They changed Ka
they,
up a bit.
yeah, and they keep things that you want them to keep. So like the two songs, "I Want to Be Like You" and then "The Bare Necessities," they keep. Everything else is cut out.
Yeah.
Um, but I enjoy it. I think that it's one of their better ones.
I do think it is, like I said, I do think overall it's like a good movie. Like, I think at its highest it is like a 7 out of 10. I do have issues with it, though, mainly involving Shere Khan, because Shere Khan, to me, is so lame in this movie because, like, the movie starts off with him being kind of, like, cool. He just walks up to the water hole and just says, I'm going to kill that kid if you don't get rid of him, you know? And then he tries to actively kill the kid, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But then he goes to the wolf den, kills Makela, and then just sits there and waits for Mowgli to show up. Like, my guy, you have no idea if Mowgli's actually gonna come back. Like, you have no idea. Like, what if Mowgli's already in the man village? What are you gonna do? You just gonna chill there and hope to spawn kill him? Like, that's your goal, dude. Like in the original movie, like Shere Khan was actively hunting Mowgli, actively going after him, showing off how proud he is, and showing off how much of a tough guy he is. But in this movie, he's just kind of chilling at the wolf den, just waiting. It's kind of lame. I don't like that. It's boring. There's also the fact that they try to make him more like an anti-hero. They try to say like, oh, he plays by the rules of the jungle. Actually, no, actually, he's a monster who just does whatever he wants. Like, which is it? Is he doing this because he's like a very strict rule follower? Is he like neutral, lawful, or whatever like that, or is he just a jerk who wants to kill people and he's just a monster? The movie can't decide.
Yeah, and I think that's how the original was, if I'm remembering it correctly.
In
It's
the
not that like
original, yeah, in
he
the
wasn't a
original they
villain.
didn't. In the original, they didn't care. Shere Khan did not care about the rules. He just wanted to kill Mowgli.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, and I mean like I enjoy it. I think that like technically wise, that's the only thing to really take away from it necessarily.
yeah.
It's a lot like The Lion King. It's like, "Oh my gosh, this is technically amazing." But I would rather watch the original.
Um, I understand. I think both movies might be on the same level, honestly, because like they both have strengths that even each other out. I think, like I said, the original does have a better Shere Khan, but I think the new one does have like a better Mowgli, who's a little more interesting. I like that I like how he actually does have a connection with the wolves and his mom. We actually explore that in this movie, where in the original we just kind of skimmed over that. I like his relationship with Bagheera better. I like his relationship with Baloo better in the live action. Actually, like there's things that both movies do that are stronger than each other that I think in the end up actually balancing themselves out and making them kind of on level with each other.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'll probably have to watch it again. Then I probably haven't seen it since
Like I said, when I make my video for
well,
it, I'll definitely rewatch
theater.
both and compare 'em to do better. But yeah, I think overall, I think both are like an equal 6 or 7 out of 10 movies for their own reasons.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll have to rewatch it then if I ever end up doing a video on it then as well. It's been a while, that's for sure. All right, so Alice Through the Looking Glass
I have not seen that
was
one yet.
in 2016 as well. This is an interesting one because there are things that are improved and then there are things that are not. So Alice Through the Looking Glass is kind of like the first uh, Wonderland where it's ah, it's kind of hard to describe it because it's its own story than from the Looking Glass because they took so much of from the original Looking Glass novel for the Wonderland movie, like the Jabberwocky and other things. But they do tie him as a character, which is the first I think they've done for a live action interpretation of Through the Looking Glass. But other than that, it's kind of boring. I mean, it's a bit more colorful than the original. It's not as dreary.
Yeah, I know Tim Burton doesn't direct this one. I know that for sure. He was like a producer only. Someone else directs the movie this time.
Yeah, and you definitely feel it. Like, all the characters are very stiff. The acting is just the most bare bones. And you can tell this was just for the paycheck. Like, this movie wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for the billion-dollar hit that was
I do
Alice in
know.
Wonderland.
I do know this movie bombed pretty badly actually because nobody cared anymore.
Yeah, it was. Let me see. It cost 170 million, so double it. So about, 200 million, maybe 250 million, and it only made 299 million. So it was a big, massive flop for Disney.
Yes, it was like again because I just think by that point, because like I said in my review of the first movie, Alice in Wonderland was a fad, and like by 6 years later, like nobody's gonna care. If this movie came out maybe like in 2013, then maybe it would have been more successful. People would have been more on board. But by 2016, I think people had already moved on from it and were just like, all right, that's a movie. Yeah, that's from my cringe emo phase. I'm good.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, so since we don't care about that one, 2017's Beauty and the Beast.
I mean, the director literally admitted he added a bunch of dumb crap for this movie just to make Emma Watson look nice, so there's that. I actually plan to make a re-review of this movie in the future, because like it's been I reviewed this way back like in 2017 or 2018. It's an older video that I don't like to look back on because it's just awful in quality. But I think my thoughts on the movie still remain the same. It's a movie that just does everything wrong, just completely bastardizes the entire story. It's like you have, like for starters, the movie opens up with the witch just breaking into the castle, and then the guy's like, "Can you leave?" And she's like, "You're not gonna let me stay? No, you broke in." Like, yeah. Guys, like, are you serious? This is such an easy thing to not screw up, and they immediately screw it up in the first 2 minutes of the movie. Like, are y'all serious? Like, this is dumb.
There's things that I enjoy about this movie, and there's things that I hate about this movie. I think Emma Watson is a very pretty girl. I don't think she's Belle.
She's not a good singer.
And she's not, because that auto-tune on her is so noticeable in that first song, it's not even funny.
It is very, very bad. It's very bad.
I think the Beast looks okay. Like, I think from far away it looks bad. Like, when they're doing the ballroom scene, that looks terrible. But when they're zooming in on his face, like, I think the CGI holds up stupendously. I think his song that he sings is really good.
Evermore.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I remember I saw the trailer of this movie and I thought Beast looked incredible. But then when I saw the movie, he looked worse than the trailer, and I was like, did they put CGI on the makeup? Because it's pretty clear they did makeup for this guy, but then they put CGI on the makeup. I'm like, why? Why would you put CGI on the makeup? That doesn't make any sense to do. That's what the makeup's for. You don't have to use CGI. Like, I know it's more expensive, but like, come on. Like, I get using CGI for like the fight scene with the wolves and everything like that, but when he's just standing there's no point for CGI. You don't need that.
Yeah, there's a French movie from the 30s that I just recently watched on HBO Max about Beauty and the Beast, and that one has an incredibly looking physical mask that they used for the Beast and makeup, and that was in the 1930s, so I definitely recommend you watch that if you got a chance.
As for me, though, I feel like this movie tried so hard to be overly complex because I hated the live-action designs of, like, Cogsworth and Lumiere, how overly detailed they are. Like, the movie thought that was going to make them more stand out more, but it makes them more forgettable, actually. It's like it had a reverse effect because there's so much detail. It just makes it hard to remember their specific looks. Like, the original characters are memorable simply because of their simplistic designs. This is, like, it's kind of why the minions are so memorable, because as annoying as they are, they have very simple designs. I say the word minion, you immediately know what they look like. But with these characters, there's just so much detail on them. You're not going to remember every little detail on their bodies and stuff, what their faces look like. Even their voices aren't really particularly that distinct or memorable. Like I know Obi-Wan voices Lumiere, but outside of that,
Yeah.
it's like I don't remember really any other performer in this movie.
Yeah, and I think my biggest gripe was Gaston. I
Mm.
don't like Luke Evans as Gaston. I think that they should have gotten someone
With
way bigger looking.
with more gusto.
Yeah, just uh, Luke Evans just doesn't work as Gaston. He just doesn't look like the character. He doesn't act like the character, and
Yeah,
I
they're
just didn't
it's
like it.
kind of ironic. They try to make him more creepy than he was in the original, but oddly enough, because this Luke Evans, he comes off as less creepy, which is very ironic. Because again, they make him very hands-on and stuff like that with Belle in one scene in the opening.
It's definitely, I think, one of their worst live action movies, in my opinion.
Oh, I
If it
hate it.
wasn't, if it wasn't for Evermore, I think it would be one of my least favorites. But Evermore and the Beast, how he sounds, I like that, but it's definitely not a good movie.
I honestly found Evermore to be a very mid song, to be honest with you.
Really, I like it because it's kind of just, I mean, it's an added thing to what it is. I guess I don't know.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't like the Beast singing voice in this movie.
It's very auto tune. It's not deep.
Like, I guess the song could be good, like if it had a better singer. That's for me though. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
just
I mean, I like it. I like it when it plays out in the movie because it's him climbing the tower to try to see Belle one last time. It's not like in the original where he just lets her go and then cries in a corner. Like he's actively trying to see Belle one last time, and then he wants to see her again, so he climbs the tower again. And he's like, "I want to see you over and over and over again, and you're the thing in my life." It's kind of like a romantic song, and as it plays out in the movie, but I can see it as just listening to it, it can be pretty bad.
I hear what you mean. Personally, I prefer the original because it's very much a less is more situation. Just that scene of him just standing in the room with the rose as Belle leaves, and then he just looks so forlorn. And then when Cogsworth asks, "Why would you do that?" and he just says, "Because I love her." That's all you need right there, man. And again, there's the fact that you have the ballroom scene. Comparatively, these are night and day. The live action is so bleak looking. They're not smiling at all for some reason. They're supposed to be falling in love in this moment. It's supposed to be very graceful and romantic. They're not smiling. They're not having fun. Like there's no little details here and there. Like I always remember in the ballroom scene, like beforehand, like when they're first being introduced to each other in their new suit, in their new dresses and costumes, and they walk down the stairs, the dog gets in the way and they like have to carefully walk over the dog. Like little details like that make it a little imperfect, but it adds so much to it. They have dinner and then Beast shows off that he's improved. He's not just slovenly eating the food anymore. He's actually being a bit more dignified for Belle. He's trying for her, and then Belle just kind of lifts him out of the chair. Beast is nervous, but she reassures him that it's going to be fine, and then Beast decides to try it. He's having fun. You cut to the ceiling, and you see the angels on the ceiling actually change to see the dance happen. And then, of course, there's that very famous swoop in with the camera, James Baxter's legendary animation. They're having fun. They're falling in love. Belle falls in the Beast's arms, and he looks over to Cogsworth and Lumiere, who are giving him a nice thumbs up because they're the boys. It's like that's Disney magic right there. That's romance. That's everything you want in a Disney movie. It's so beautiful. It's like perhaps the single greatest Disney scene they've ever created. You know?
I don't know about that. Like I would have to go through every Disney movie to say that, but I do agree. I do agree because that original it's perfect. Like that's a perfect movie. There's a reason it was
Yes.
nominated for an Academy Award.
For Best
For
Picture.
Best Picture. Best Picture. A Disney cartoon as Best Picture. I mean,
That's
that's
never
almost
happened before.
unthinkable now.
That's
That's
never
almost
happened before.
unthinkable now.
That was the first time it ever
Exactly.
happened.
And people, I think it was, they showed an early cut of it for some big
Festival.
festival, and animation wasn't even done, and people were getting up cheering for the movie. I agree. That original movie is perfect in every
Yes.
shape and possible way. The new one is bad,
Yeah.
but I do like Evermore a little bit, man. I
That's
mean,
fine.
I have a soft spot for it.
That's fine. I think the movie overall is very lackluster. The way it's paced to
Mhm.
be almost like a speed run of the original animated movie.
Yes,
Like
and
they
then
just
things get slowed down so bad.
they fast forward some of the most important bits, like the scene where Belle walks into the West Wing for the first time. They just breeze through that crap so fast. Like, good lord. Like I remember in the original, like the Beast, like he just kind of swoops in, but then just slowly glares at Belle, and he like snaps at her. It's very slow. It's very intimidating. But in the live action version, it's just like, what just happened? If I blinked, I missed the scene.
Yeah, and the same thing for when her father first visits the castle. The live action one, I think, is like 2 seconds. It's like he comes in, he gets a quick bite, and then walks out like he's so like scared. And I guess that's kind of like the original Grimm's fairy tale a little bit. But in the original, he meets Chip, he meets Lumiere, he meets Cogsworth and Mrs. Potts and stuff. There's a little more of a connection.
Yeah, in the live action version, he doesn't even go into the castle. He's in the rose garden, and then he picks a rose, and
Oh,
that's
that's
what.
right.
Yeah, he doesn't even enter the castle. He doesn't meet anybody.
I completely forgot about that.
In the original, and plus that in the original, it wasn't because he took a rose. It was because like Beast was like being so petty, showing off how much of a monster he was on the inside. Because like Maurice was just an old man who was lost in the woods. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody, and he was
He
just
was
like,
raving.
yeah, he was raving, and like the Beast just locks him up just for being there, like, cause to show how much of a jerk he can be. It
Mhm.
emphasizes how much of a monster he is. But in the live action remake, he did technically steal a rose. It's petty still, yeah. I'm not. It's not much, but like I guess it's kind of something a little weirder. And you're
That's what
right.
harkens back to the original Grimm's fairy tale, though, when because he gets a rose, and then the beast locks him up for that reason.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because in the original he has multiple daughters, and all of them ask for something uh really expensive, and Belle's the one that asks, "Can I just have a rose?" And so that's why he grabs the rose for her.
That reminds me, Belle's mom is the most pointless subplot in the entire movie. It adds nothing to Belle's character. It adds
I
nothing.
didn't even remember if she was in it. So there you go.
Well, she died of the plague, so that was a weird addition to the story. They had to add the plague into being the beast for some reason.
Depressing.
Terrible movie.
Yeah.
This was the first live action remake I actively hated. Like the other ones I
I
had.
didn't hate it when it first came out, but I did hate it the more I watched it.
Yes, this is a movie that gets worse on rewatch, and I know once I re-review it, I'm going to hate it even more.
Yeah, it would definitely be very low if it wasn't for a couple movies that are coming up that we're going to talk about. Um, one of them in particular. But I love the original Beauty and the Beast. I'm with you. Perfect, perfect movie. Nothing could have been improved on that movie. And the live action is a big slap in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, continuing on, we have 2018's Christopher Robin, which isn't really a live action remake per se, but it's kind of like a pseudo sequel in a way. What do you think about this one?
I saw it one time, and I hardly remember anything about it, to be honest with you. I
Yeah,
would
me too.
I would have to rewatch it, honestly, because I probably will make a video on it, but I don't remember anything about it, honestly. Like, I mean, I like that they got Jim Cummings to come back to do the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. I think that's nice. I guess the idea of like having them be their original designs from like their old toy designs from like all those years ago. I don't remember when, like maybe like the 30s and 40s and stuff. It's a unique idea. It's an interesting choice. Um, Ewan McGregor, I think, is good as Christopher Robin. He's a good actor. Other than that, I don't remember a thing about this movie.
Yeah, same here. Like, I think it's just him older, right? And he's like going through depression, and they help him through that.
He's going through a midlife crisis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the CGI was good. Like, I think the Winnie the Pooh and the gang look incredible. There's nothing really wrong with the movie. I think it's
It just doesn't
not
leave much of an
really.
impression.
Yeah, because the original is, one of those things for babies, even though it was like designed for babies, kind of like Dumbo was in a way.
I
Um,
would say Winnie the Pooh is very much in the same vein as like Sesame Street, where yes, it's intended for children, but the way it's written, the charm of it, as a way of actually sticking with adults. And even if you're an
Exactly.
adult, you can still like come back to it because it's just so timeless and charming. So I wouldn't say it's just for
Yeah.
babies.
No, no, no. I was saying like it's designed for babies in a way. Like they were shorter. Like the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh was a ton of short segments, and then they combined them all into one big movie. Because I think they were like shorts for before their big live or theatrical movies or their live action movies, and then they combined them all in the 70s or the 80s into the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Um,
Just a movie that kind
I
of came. It just kind of went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, like it's good. I don't think there's any problems with it. There's nothing I can complain about. It's just kind of forgettable.
I can't remember anything off the top of my head about to talk about. Like I said, if I rewatch it, maybe I'll like it a lot more than I did originally. But as of now, I have nothing to say.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Oh no. 2019, the year of the remakes. Oh boy. Uh Dumbo.
I haven't seen Dumbo actually.
Oh no. It's
I
so bad, dude.
I just skipped Dumbo entirely. I honestly kind of forgot it existed.
It's so bad because what I was trying to allude to with what I was saying about Winnie the Pooh is that Dumbo and Winnie the Pooh, they're kind of like the shorter Disney movies. They're really, really small.
Yeah.
Dumbo is like, I don't even think it's an hour.
Really?
It, I don't even think that because it was like a TV movie that they made, and then or it was one of the first that they would show on TV because it was so short.
Well,
I
to be
don't.
fair, they did that sort of thing with Alice in Wonderland, but they actually cut Alice in Wonderland down because there were sections you could leave out and then re-air on later re-airings to get people to watch it more.
Yeah, so Dumbo is only 64 minutes in length.
Right. It's a short movie.
Yeah. So the problem that you have with Dumbo on the live action one is there's things that are okay, like the CGI is pretty good, I would say, for the animals and stuff. But man, the whole story and the characters are unbearable. They're they're unbearable because what it is Tim Burton. I know this was the movie that like made him almost quit. He was saying because he's doing the interviews for Beetlejuice, and he was like, "Yeah, Dumbo made me quit directing there for a little bit." It's like who, um, yeah, because what it is, and I don't know whose fault it was. It could have been Disney. It could have been Tim Burton because I don't know. It's kind of a mystery with this movie. The first 20 minutes are the first 5 minutes of Dumbo with little human interaction, and then the rest of the movie is a completely new story. Nothing of what the original Dumbo movie is in the live action one. So like I don't think they do the pink elephant scene. I think they do a few things like the Baby of Mine song when Dumbo's mother is like touching his trunk and there's that, but it's very brushed aside very quickly. Um there's nothing fun about it because Dumbo is always one of my favorites, kind of like Bambi, where it's a movie you don't need to hear. It's a movie you don't need to like listen to. It's a movie that has very little dialogue and it's all visual storytelling in a way.
Its appeal is the
Um,
animation.
exactly, and there's nothing fun in the live action one. Casey Jr., the train, sequence, that's not even in the live action movie. The most iconic thing about Dumbo, in my opinion. Um, the mouse, I always forget his name, but
I
he's not even in the
think it's
movie.
Timothy.
Yeah, Timothy. He's not in the movie. I think the lucky feather comes from some random circus performer. I think that there are things that could have been fun about it, like Danny DeVito as the circus ringleader was a good idea. Um,
He's in the movie.
Michael Keaton, yeah, Michael Keaton's in the movie. Like it's pretty star-studded, but the problem was with Dumbo was it was released at March of 2019. Guess what you had a month later? Avengers Endgame. That's why it was so forgettable because no one cared about Dumbo. What's the movie everyone was gonna go watch? Avengers. People were waiting for that movie. But I don't like Dumbo. I think it's worse than Beauty and the Beast. Actually, I think I don't know. I don't like it at all.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah, I mean that's all I can say really. All right, so then in May of 2019, we had Aladdin. What do you think about that one?
So here's so the more I think about the original Aladdin, the more I might have probably the hottest take in animation that I can ever think of, and it involves the character Genie itself. I love the Genie. Don't get me wrong. I like the Genie. I like Robin Williams' performance, but Genie is a very unique circumstance that I am not a fan of. The whole idea of like basing an entire character solely around an actor, the more I think about it, the more I realize this can backfire so heavily. And I think the years after this movie came out proved I'm right, because you had, because again, Robin famously took a huge pay cut with this movie. He only made like $75,000 off this movie, but he also made Disney agree to a deal where they don't use his name in any marketing, and Genie takes up like maybe 25% of the posters, and that's it. Disney royally betrayed him in that case because he was all over the marketing. He hated that. I think he even took him to court over that, like in like violation of the contract.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, he was very pissed off. He did not come back for the sequel, Return of Jafar, and like it got to a point where like he said, if they talk to me, then maybe I'll be down to come back for the third one. And Disney, I crap you not, they came back and they gave him a they sent him, instead of making a public apology like he asked for, they sent him a $1 million portrait, to which Robin replied, "What the F am I going to do with this?" He literally, that's pretty much what he said. It wasn't until Michael Eisner came in and became the new CEO of Disney that Robin finally got the public apology he asked for, and that was the point where he said, "All right, I'll come back and do the third movie." But this pretty much proves my point. It's like they base so heavily on Robin being the genie that, like I said, like what was the plan if Robin decided not to do the role? What then? Who are you gonna get to play the character? Like Dan Castellaneta, because he's a fine replacement, but he's not Robin Williams. Even he admitted that. Mm-hmm. And that's like a thing. I think there's a vast difference between like perfect casting, like in the cases of like Yzma and Kronk, who were perfectly cast in Emperor's New Groove, and a character so tied to their actor that without them they cannot work. And that just proves positive that this is like, that's my issue with Genie as a character, because he is so heavily tied to Robin Williams. It's near impossible to make this character work without him. You know, it's like when
Will Smith did okay though.
Will Smith did okay because they made the decision, and the wise decision in my opinion, to not just replicate Robin Williams' Genie. They took the Genie and they rewrote him to be Will Smith. That's what this is. That's a problem in itself, which I'll get to in a minute. But this just pretty much proves
I see what you mean.
This pretty much proves my point. I mean, in Once Upon a Studio, they had to use archival footage of Robin because, again, there's just no way you can have the Genie be in that short without Robin's voice. So you got to use archival footage. You can't just, you bring in Dan Castellaneta because it's not going to work. It's like, it's distracting. It was distracting in Kingdom Hearts when I played it. It's going to be distracting again when I go back there and do it again in Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm not hating on Dan Castellaneta. He's a good actor. He's a great voice actor in general. Even he has admitted this is an impossible task to try and fill in Robin's shoes.
He's just not Robin Williams.
Exactly.
Especially just how iconic Aladdin is. Everyone's seen it. It's a lot like Beauty and the Beast.
Exactly. I think it was the single most successful film of 1992 when it came out.
Yeah, because that was in their golden renaissance.
That was in their heyday. Yeah, their absolute heyday. Yes. But like
finally started to do good.
Right. Like, it's the thing. I still like Genie as a character. I still think he's a very fun and charming character. Robin Williams gives an amazing performance. But this is kind of a criticism a lot of people keep having with the movie, the original. It's that a lot of the pop culture references, it dates the movie, and on rewatch, it's less funny as you go on. And I think that is a detriment to the character. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Genie is so tied to Robin Williams, and that's that was his whole shtick when he was alive. And that's a problem to me. I don't like that. That's, like I said, that might be a hot take to some people, but that's my personal thoughts on Genie as a character. And it's also kind of a reason why live-action Aladdin isn't really particularly a good movie, because once again, they had to completely rewrite the genie to be a new character to make Will Smith's performance work. The problem is that it's just Will Smith as Genie now instead of its own unique character. You know, they didn't rewrite the Genie; they just made it Will Smith.
I think it's just kind of a okay movie. I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Yeah.
But there are things that they very much messed up on.
I guess I can agree. I think it
took the Maleficent route. I think like all the movie was okay up to the end. The ending was the biggest miss that I think. Like the guy who plays Jafar is just not good as Jafar. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with that actor or what they were trying to accomplish with writing for Jafar, but he's not interesting. He's not likable. He's not hateable. There's just nothing to this character Jafar in the live action movie. And I think also the way that the ending is, it just plays out on like a rooftop. There's no big sword fight or big snake.
They just make Iago bigger. That's all they did.
Yeah, and like that's fun, but
that's all it is.
It's not the original.
That's all it is. Like, it would have been a decent first step if the fight was bigger, sure, but that's all it was. It was just a big parrot. How is that cooler to a giant snake or a sorcerer or like a warlock or him turning into a giant genie in the end? Like, how's that cool?
Yeah, like I think it's well acted. I think the characters, the people that they chose for Aladdin and Jasmine are pretty good.
Again, I think Will Smith is. I guess that this is more just a fundamental issue with the writing rather than Will Smith's performance. But I think Will Smith did a good job, all things considered. Like, again, he was given a very monumental task of living up to Robin Williams, and I think all things considered, he did the best he could.
Yeah,
I think the song covers are actually really good in this movie. Like, they're actually really well done, well made covers. Like, which is something I can't really say for a lot of these musical remakes. Because, like, again,
Will Smith was in music. I mean, since the
early 90s, he's a musician. So. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like his cover of "Friend Like Me" and Prince Ali are actually they're actually bangers. They're actually really good covers. I actually really think they're great redos. Like they actually did.
Yeah.
Like Will Smith adds his own personal flavor to it and makes it stand out. I think the musical numbers themselves are kind of sluggish and slow. Like they really should have taken some influence from Bollywood and made it more fast-paced and energetic, like the animated versions.
Why didn't they?
Yeah,
because Bollywood recently is something that I've fallen in love with.
Yeah, Bollywood's crazy.
Ever since RRR came out, that's something that I've loved. Going back to Aladdin, I'm like, there's the one song that Jasmine sings that they took inspiration from Bollywood, but nothing else they did was Bollywood.
Was it Speechless?
And I was so. Yeah, I'm so frustrated by that they didn't do anything else like that was Bollywood-like.
I think Speechless is the funniest thing in the movie for me because it's supposed to be It's supposed to be this like triumphant moment where the strong woman like defies authority, defies society, but then immediately as it's over, she surrenders immediately. Like what was the point of that? What was the point of that whole sequence? Like I don't get it. It's so dumb.
It just wasn't it. The movie is entertaining. I'll give it that. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great, but it's entertaining. I had a smile on my face while I was watching it.
It has good things. It has bad things. Admittedly, like I do agree with you that Jafar was probably the worst part of the movie overall. Like it does. Like I said, I guess I would agree. It is okay overall.
Yeah, like there's nothing that is a Beauty and the Beast where you can get mad at it, but there's nothing that you're like jumping out of your seat being like, yeah, like this is what Disney live action remakes need to be, you know? It's just kind of like, okay. And I mean, there was 5 of these in 2019, so cripe. With that being said, July of 2019, The Lion King.
Oh. Okay, so it's probably my hottest take ever. It's not the worst live action remake. I know some people would absolutely have your head on a pike for saying that, but it's actually not. It's just the original again, 99% of the way through. On a technical level, it's a gorgeous movie. Like if you just ignore, like if they had no dialogue and made this like a Fantasia-like situation, then maybe this could have worked. Like maybe, like if they actually changed the story up a little bit and just made it with no dialogue or anything. I think this could have been an interesting idea. The score is still pretty good. Like it's still the original score, which is a phenomenal score. It's just redone. It's not as good as the original, but it's not bad. Timon and Pumbaa are actually kind of funny in this version. I actually do kind of like Timon and Pumbaa in this version. Um, uh,
Okay, I'm gonna give a hot take.
okay.
I never really liked the original that much to even begin with.
Really?
So yeah, like compared to others, I was always more drawn to like The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast. The Lion King was one I just never really clicked with as much as other people did for some reason. So with this one, I really have no opinion if it's good, better, or worse than the original. I think on a technical level, it's incredible. I think there are some shots that still are amazing, and the new Mufasa movie I think looks worse than the
Oh, it
this movie
does. It looks like
actually.
it looks awful. It looks so ugly. Like
And I think
at least the characters are emoting now. Like they have
yeah,
expressions
like
on their faces, but the CGI is so bad looking. It looks
yeah,
awful.
and I think that was like my biggest take when I watched this was it was good, but I wish there was a little more emoting. But other than that, I have no real qualms with it because I mean the original I really don't have that many things to say about it. It's the Lion King. I mean, everyone's said their stuff about it. I'm just one of those people that I would rather watch the Black Cauldron than the Lion King, to be
Hmm.
honest. Um,
Really? Huh.
yeah, like I mean, I just never really had that much nostalgia for the Lion King. Um, I think just on a technical level, it's still one of the greatest achievements I think in CGI. I think when I first saw that trailer and the sunrise was coming up and they said, "Oh yeah, that's the only shot that's real."
Well,
And then
there's
everything
a
else,
actually there's two shots in the movie that are real. There's another
oh, which
shot.
one?
There was a shot. I think it's like after Simba's. I can't remember exactly when it is, but it's a shot of the night sky. It's like swooping over to Rafiki's tree, I believe. I don't remember exactly when it's in the movie, but it is a shot of the night sky. There's actually two shots and that are live action in that movie.
But to know that like 99.9% of the movie is CGI still blows my mind.
It's not an animated movie though. I'm not calling it that.
No, I don't agree with it being an animated movie at all. If you have live action shots, you're not a live action movie. You're not an animated movie. I'm sorry.
Unless you're like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a very unique situation. Something like Who Framed
That's a
Roger
live
Rabbit,
action
animation
like
hybrid.
yeah. But I mean, I have real no qualms with it. I think that the people that they chose for it were fine. I think the voice acting was fine. I think Scar maybe was a little underwhelming,
You could
kind of
have
like Jafar.
honestly, you could have had him voice Mufasa, and I don't think anyone would have cared. Like I
No,
honestly,
you need James Earl Jones as Mufasa. I'm
I
sorry.
I have to disagree on this case because in this particular movie, like in the original, yeah, he's fantastic. He fits perfectly. But in this movie, you can feel his age. He is very
Mhm.
tired. He's very sleepy. I think at this point he's just phoning in for the paycheck in this role. He's just ready to be like done with it because it's just the same character. It's just the original voice again. Like he's not adding anything new to the character or doing anything unique. I just find it to be a very mid performance from him, honestly. And I honestly get it because it's like, what's there to add? What can you do that's not the original again? Because it's just the same script again. Like you can sense his
Yeah,
age with this role.
it's it's just one of those movies I think didn't really need to exist if I'm being honest.
I mean, did
Like
do
there's
any of
nothing.
these?
No, but I'm just saying like at least with the other movies they changed some things or they attempted to do some things whether it was for good or for bad. Lion King was literally just a shot for shot remake and they just wanted to do at least with Mufasa it's they're wanting to tell a new chapter or a new story or a new thing. uh, this movie didn't do any of that. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those movies you shrug your shoulders at. It made $1 billion and nobody really talks about it now.
Yeah, I like. I guess I the only egregiously bad thing it did, outside of just being a soulless cheap remake, was they butchered Be Prepared so hard. Like, good lord.
Oh, yes, I remember. That's what I was like saying like Scar was underwhelming.
Yeah, because that's the thing about Be Prepared. Turns out they actually weren't gonna do Be Prepared at all. But then fans like made a big stink about it on Twitter and everything, and it was like, all right, well, I'll be prepared. It was like, yay, finally, we're getting Be Prepared in live action, and then they got it, and it's like, you should have just stuck to your guns and told us to off, man.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, just it's okay.
I love the original. I think it's a fantastic movie, but this is just so soulless and bad. It's not the worst one ever, but not a good movie.
Yeah, like I think there's good shots. Like Jon Favreau did a pretty good job directing, but you can't really give him that much credit when it's literally a shot-for-shot remake.
The original movie is just this film's storyboards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so October 18 was Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I did not see this one.
I saw it one time, and that was like, that's enough for me. But it was a long time ago. I don't remember that much about it. I just know, like, I just really hated the fact that they tried this crap a second time. They try with the marketing to hype up, like, oh yeah, Maleficent's gonna be evil. They even named the movie Mistress of Evil.
And she's not.
She's not evil. No, it's just another dumb misunderstanding crap. It's like, come on, stop lying to your audience to get people to see this movie. It's funny because it didn't work. The movie kind of bombed, which is funny to me. You know, they even try to make Maleficent hot by having Maleficent wear like some like midriff shirt or whatever, which was like, as much as I love Maleficent, that looked goofy as hell. If you ask me, that was it is a goofy design for her. They try to like give her backstory by like explaining where the fairies came from. She meets her own kind and stuff. Like, that's fascinating and all. Like, again,
I don't care.
Yeah, like that's the thing either. I don't care either. I just don't.
And Maleficent is one of those characters where she's more interesting, she's more scary when you know less about her.
She's just a sorcerer.
Scary.
Yeah. Like, you don't know what she is. Yeah.
When you start to like show her, like in the original Maleficent, her as a little girl, she's not threatening anymore. She's just not.
Also, her parents named her Maleficent, which literally means evil when she's like a little girl. That's like super nice and everything. Like, what's that about? Like setting her for disaster there, don't you think?
Just stupid. Stupid. Nobody cared. All right, so November 12 was the first Disney Plus release when they started to dump some of these on Disney Plus because they
were less important.
Lady and the Tramp. I watched like 2 minutes and I turned it off.
I did not watch this one either.
All right, we don't care.
Yeah, I have like no strong feelings about the original Lady and the Tramp, save for, I guess, the spaghetti scene is cute, but other than that, it's just a movie that exists and that's it.
Yeah, like I think the original has some impressive animation for the dogs. Disney's always been amazing with their animal animation compared to their human animation.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Lady and the Tramp.
It's fine. It's all right.
Yeah. I wouldn't put that up there with some of their most classic movies. It's kind of like Aristocats too.
It's fine.
Yeah. All right. September 4. So this was one that had gotten delayed, I think, multiple different times. Mulan. This was a Disney Plus release, and it was one that you paid like $30, I think.
You had to pay $30 for a premium service on top of your subscription service. So that, at the time, I remember this. At the time, I remember this. They did I remember the time they charged you about, it was either like $7 per month, or you could do a $70 for a yearly fee, which I did. So on top of $70, you had to pay another $30 for the premium service. You're paying $100 to watch one movie. Are you absolutely kidding me?
Yeah, and they did this with a couple others like Black Widow.
Cruella, Ryan the Last Dragon, and they realized this is not making money. Because here's the thing, this was when COVID was happening. Theaters everywhere were shut down. There was no going to theaters at all. And Mulan 2020 cost a lot of money. It was like over $200 million to make. So here's the thing. As much as I despise this movie on a moral level, on a filmmaking level, for pretty much every level, I get it. Disney needs to make their money back. I understand that from a business perspective. But if they charge like maybe $10, maybe $15 at the most for that service, I would see people doing that. $30 is an outrageous price. It is ridiculous, considering that the average movie ticket is about $6 to $8 in America across the country. Well, maybe not in the West. I don't know how it is in the West, but in the East, where I live in, it's like $6 to $8 per theater. it's not that
Yeah,
expensive.
it depends on the theater near me, where it's like $10 to $7.
Yeah, it's like, why should I pay $30 when the theater would charge me like $6 or $7 for a ticket? That's ridiculous. But
Yeah, I didn't do the fee charge. I just waited until it was free because honestly, like the original Mulan is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. I love the original. I did not want to see it butchered as bad as it was.
is
And it,
there any point in bringing up the original version? Because
no,
Since China hated the original animated version, this movie has to do everything in its power to have nothing to do with it. No Shang, no Mushu, none of that crap. So it's just really funny to me because there was that one character that's supposed to be Mulan's love interest in this movie. I don't remember what his name is, but
he was split up, I believe, into like three different characters, wasn't he?
yeah, because Disney didn't want to have a woman be under an authoritative figure for some reason. When like I don't know if y'all know, but that's how the military works. When women join the army, they have authority figures. That's just how the army works, dude. That's dumb. They wanted Mulan to be so strong from the very beginning. So they gave her midi-chlorians and crap, and it's just the dumbest thing in the world. Because like that was what made the original Mulan such a great movie. The fact that Mulan starts off the movie so feeble, weak, confused, not knowing who she is, not knowing who she wants to be, and the whole movie is her figuring that out. That's what I like about Mulan. It's probably one of the best like female empowerment messages Disney's ever made because you have a female character who is very relatable in the opening that both boys and girls can relate to, but it's definitely more for girls. And as the movie goes on, she gets stronger and she finds who she is deep down inside. She begins to like the reflection that she shows. You know? It's it's very strong, it's very empowering, it's really nice. On top of that, there's actual personality in the movie as opposed to this lifeless train wreck that has like I can't remember a single character's personality in this movie anywhere. I can't remember a unique line of dialogue. I can't remember anything.
I can't remember anything. The only thing I remember was I think the decision to cut out all the songs and instead do like orchestrated versions of them. So like when Be a Man
Oh,
comes
when
in,
they say lines from the movie, they say
it's just
lines
an
from the songs. That I remember.
I don't remember that. I just remember when like Be a Man would come up, it was an orchestrated version while they were training. It wasn't them singing, which I actually like that decision. I don't agree with the way they went because the way they justified it was we're going to take it back to the original Chinese
Tail.
tale or whatever it
Yeah.
was. And but in that they just took away all the charm of what Mulan is. Everybody
They
knows Mulan because of Disney, not
yeah.
the original tale.
Yeah, but this you gotta understand. This was never about paying homage to the original. This is about making China happy because China hated the animated version, and China's where all the big bucks come in. One good thing that came from it, this movie bombed, and ironically enough, it came from China. How ironic is that? That a movie that was so dedicated to making China happy they still didn't like it. There were talks of even banning it still in China because they didn't like parts of it. It was inaccurate. They still didn't like certain story decisions. They thought it was still butchering the original tale.
I don't mind the decision to go more in line with the original tale, but I think they could have taken like more of a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon approach almost. Like make it a little more whimsical, kind of. Like make it a little more like a play, kind of. It just was a pretty much a standard, typical action flick,
with
but you're
some of
taking
the
Mulan.
with some of the
So
worst choreography and editing ever seen. It's abysmal. This is such one of the most
yeah,
incomprehensibly. This is one of the most incomprehensible movies I've ever seen, live action wise. Like it should not be hard to film live action fight scenes. You just got to keep the camera in one place and let people actually see the fight. You don't need to have all these
exactly.
hard cuts. You don't need to like if you want to get in the fight, make it animated. All right, because like if you're gonna get super close into the fight, you got to make that animated. Like it doesn't work in live action because it's just ugly, incomprehensible. It doesn't work.
I agree. Everything about this movie is awful, but the one thing I will argue for is that I like the cinematography. I think that the locations that they chose to shoot for it were beautiful. I think that like the town that like Mulan grows up in, I think that looked really nice. I'm not saying it's great or like perfect or amazing, But I will say that I did enjoy the cinematography for what it was.
I found it very standard and just very forgettable overall. I don't remember a
Yeah,
single interesting shot in this movie anywhere. Like there was that shot with the Phoenix at the end, the final fight. That was just like, get it? She's a Phoenix. It's so relatable. She became a Phoenix. She grew from the ashes.
I agree. Like I didn't like the movie at all because Mulan is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But there are like little things that it's like, okay, you did okay on that, it's like eh.
I don't
But
think so.
overall,
The worst
poor.
live action remake. The worst live action remake in the entire list.
We will get to the worst live action remake.
That's the worst to me.
All right, that's the worst to you. Okay, it's not as bad to me as what's coming. All right, so then in May of 2021, we have Cruella.
I haven't
I
seen
have
Cruella
not
yet.
seen this.
I haven't seen Cruella
Okay.
either, honestly. My friend Jack said that it's awful though.
Oh, okay. I have no. I never really liked 101 Dalmatians. That's kind of like The Lion King to me, where it's like I have no real nostalgia for it. It's not one that I like watched a ton.
I think it's a good movie.
Um,
Not an amazing one, but it's a good movie. But
yeah,
yeah, I haven't watched
yeah,
Cruella yet.
yeah. So
Once
I
again, it
mean,
was behind that $30 paywall, and I didn't pay for it, and I just never bothered to come back to it.
exactly. That's the same for me. All right, so September 8th, 2022. What, in my opinion, is the worst movie of 2022 is Robert Zemeckis' Pinocchio.
Ooh, okay, I see what you mean. This was a
Um,
bad one. This was really terrible.
Out of all the live action Disney remakes, the worst I can say about it is that they're forgettable or they're a Beauty and the Beast. Like Beauty and the Beast even did things that eh, yes, it trampled on the original, but it still did things that were like you could say okay, it was okay. Overall to a certain degree. Pinocchio for me is my favorite golden age Disney cartoon. I love everything about that original. And when they announced the live action version, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I don't think I've ever experienced anger as much as I felt watching this movie. I felt what people felt watching The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right. This is definitely a terrible one for sure. Like I actually did a video for this one,
I did
and
too.
yeah, and man, I just like there was just so much butchering of the original. For starters, it is just a soulless remake. Once again, no innovation really, nothing unique or interesting being done with it. But the way they changed so many elements of the story, there's the famous lying scene with he's in the cage. It's like the whole point of that scene is that he's supposed to learn a lesson that lying is a bad thing and you shouldn't do that. But
Exactly. He learns no lessons.
in this movie, lying is a benefit to him. It actually works out for him.
I know.
Like what's like
And
that's
then there's no lessons that Pinocchio learns in the entire movie. It was so frustrating.
let's not. Can we talk about the fact that they for some reason tried to give Pinocchio a love interest in that other puppet?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like that was like meant to be where
He's like
like a replacement for the Blue Fairy in a way.
he's like
Because the Blue
6.
Fairy yeah, it was stupid.
Yeah, the character had no point in the story whatsoever. And again, Pinocchio's like supposed to be like a 6-year-old kid. Who has love interest when they're like 6?
Yeah. Like there's some things, the only two things I like and the only things I can say that are good about it is that we're dealing with a movie that has a $200 million budget. This thing was a big budget movie and they knew it was bad, so that's why they dumped it on Disney Plus. That's the reason it's there. The only things that I can say were okay was that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Jiminy Cricket and he was unrecognizable. I think he did pretty good as Jiminy.
Yeah, he's a good fit. He was a good fit.
The other thing was Honest John's rendition of An Actor's Life for me. I like it better than the original.
Really? I don't even remember him singing it.
I think the big band because it's a big band rendition of it, and I think it was better.
Huh. I don't remember him singing at all.
Yeah, he sung it for a few times, but he sung the whole song. But other than that, I don't like anything in this movie. There's so many confusing things. Like When Pinocchio's skipping to school, I thought that Disney was trolling us with this shot. When Pinocchio's skipping to school and he's like, "Gosh, I wonder I can't wait to learn about all these new things in the world." And then he looks down and there's the big piece of horse poop. It's like, what?
I honestly, when I saw that scene, I honest to God thought there was gonna be some comical scene where he drops the apple and he's gonna pick up the horse crap instead. And like, thank God they had
no.
some hesitation with that joke. That would have been so bad. But yeah, it's that's a perfect shot that perfectly sums up the movie right there. I mean, like, what was I had it in my head just a second ago. Uh, there's the ending where they decide not to make Pinocchio a real boy for some reason.
Yeah, Jiminy's like, he could have become a real boy. Who knows? And then it just ends.
Like, they hint that maybe he became one, maybe he didn't. It's all in the air, and they, instead of getting a real human boy, they just like CGI it, and it's the weirdest looking thing in the world. And then there's on the island.
Yes, Pleasure Island.
They don't smoke for some reason. They don't drink real alcohol. They drink root beer because this is Kids Next Door, apparently. Like, they don't do anything actually that bad. Maybe they break some things, but it's so toned down from the original. When, like, the whole point of Pleasure Island is that these kids are doing bad things.
And Pinocchio doesn't take place in any of them. He just sits in a corner sipping on root beer. And he still grows into a donkey. It makes no sense.
Yeah, like in the original, he actually takes part. He's actually doing bad things with everybody else because he's an influential kid who's just blindly going along with everything because he's naive. He's not a bad kid. He's just stupid. But in this,
yeah, he's like, being a bad boy is a lot of fun.
But in this version, he's already a good kid at heart. He already knows his lesson. There's no growth. And then they just magically fix that later, like in the next 10 minutes anyway. Like, he just admits he was wrong, and then it all just magically goes away. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, because what kind of message do you want to send kids that like there's no lasting consequences to your bad actions? The tail and the ears stayed with Pinocchio throughout the rest of the movie because that serves as a consequence to his actions. It shows that if you do something bad, that's gonna follow you wherever you go. That's just how life is.
Yeah, there were so many decisions in this movie. Like, I don't know what Robert Zemeckis was on in the process. Well, he hasn't made a good movie since Castaway, in my opinion.
His last good movie for me was Polar Express.
And I mean, maybe his next movie might do something, but even then, it's like, who cares? And to top it off, the thing that I didn't like too was Tom Hanks as Geppetto. I thought that was a terrible casting decision.
He's an amazing actor, but this was absolutely just not good casting. He tries so hard. Like, you can see him trying really hard to make this work, but he doesn't stick with an accent.
No! He goes in and out of his accent.
Sometimes he sounds Italian, sometimes he doesn't. Like he's a good actor, but this is just not, like, I don't know if he's just not well directed or what, but it's just, no, this is not a good casting choice at all.
And then they gave Pinocchio powers, like when he glows blue, or he like does a Black Widow style landing,
or in the final, or
Monstro.
or the fight with Monstro where he just becomes like a propeller, like a jet boat. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's so like that is the worst one in my opinion.
Yeah, because like in the original, like there's so much suspense in the chase because like they're just helpless in the water trying so hard. That's what makes it so tense and terrifying because they're trying to get away from this giant monster and all they have are their paddles. And even then it's not enough. They still get their boat wrecked. They still get thrown around. It's like actually tense and scary. This movie, it's just a superhero. It's just a Marvel shot. That's all it is.
And then to top it off, the thing that irritated me, because in the original, you think Pinocchio died. Like, he dies. I think he dies in the original, if I'm correct. And then that's when the Blue Fairy comes and resurrects him and turns him into a boy at the process.
Well, actually, fun fact. Funny you bring this up because in the original 1940 version, that was the original ending idea that Geppetto was going to be one who, quote unquote, dies, and Pinocchio is the one who tries to resurrect him.
That's stupid.
Yeah, they changed it because, like, it was apparently Pinocchio, like, apologizing to Geppetto and saying he's sorry for running away and disappearing and stuff like that. This is in the original version, not this version. This was a deleted scene in the original animated version that Disney made that obviously was changed and cut, but I guess they wanted to take that old ending and make it here.
Yeah, it doesn't work because Pinocchio sacrifices himself And that's when he deserves to become a real boy. And here, he possesses magic tears all of a sudden, and it resurrects Geppetto, and then he becomes a real boy. And Jiminy's like, you know, he might have become a real boy. I don't know.
Like, I could just follow them and double check, but because they're like 10 feet behind me, but why would I do that? That takes work.
Yeah, Pinocchio, it's a lot like Sleeping Beauty. Pinocchio, the jump in quality from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to Pinocchio is incredible. Like the Snow White's animation with the humans was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But it's not amazing.
Have you ever seen the documentary No Strings Attached? It's free to watch on YouTube, and it goes into the intricate process of how the movie was made.
I will watch that tonight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I used footage of that in my review of it. It's like, again, it just highlights exactly what made the original such a monumental achievement in animation.
I mean, everything about the original is incredible. It's a perfect movie in my opinion, just like Beauty and the Beast is. And to see this movie get this much just wacky, baffling decisions. Even if it was a shot-for-shot remake, you could have just kind of shrugged it off like, okay, but, you know, it's like an Aladdin or a Lion King. It's like, at least it's okay. This one is the worst, I think it's the worst because on every decision, it gets the original wrong, and the original characters, the original stories, the original ideas.
The messages.
There's nothing to the new one. It's the first movie where I felt so angry after. That's when I was like, I'm going to make a video on it. This is so stupid. Well, moving on to April 28th, 2023, Peter Pan and Wendy.
Oh, I hated this one.
I did not see it because this was the first movie I took a look at the trailer and I said, I don't. This
is perhaps the ugliest live action remake, mainly on the fact that it has some of the worst lighting of any Disney remake. It is so dark. In my review, I had to purposely go back and adjust the lighting because it's so dark. You can't see anything. The actor who plays Peter Pan, I'm sorry, I don't want to be mean to this kid, is awful. He gives one of the most lifeless, dull performances ever. Like, for some reason, like, I remember, I didn't bring this up in my review because I wasn't aware of it, but people brought this up in the comments. This, like, a tradition with Peter Pan adaptations is that the father of the Darling kids and Hook are played by the same actor because that's supposed to be, like, the bit there. They're supposed to be the same character in a way. But in this movie, they don't do that. They have Alan Tudyk play the father, and then they have, I can't remember his name,
They have a famous guy for Hook.
Yeah, he played Pitch in Rise of the Guardians. I can't remember what his name is.
Jude Law.
Jude Law, that's who it was. They have two different actors. That's like right there a mistake right there. Like Jude Law is decent as Hook. He's not bad, but like I don't see why they couldn't use Alan Tudyk as Hook. Alan Tudyk would have been fine as Hook. I think he would have been a good fit. I think. You have awful effects. You have this is. God, I really hate giving into these stupid woke people. Like, I don't like using the word woke because it's a dumb term. But this is one movie that absolutely tries to be woke, and and they try to make Wendy super proactive and stuff. You know, there's this dumb line in the movie where, like, she flies for the first time, and Hook's like, you have the boy's magic. And she replies with, this magic belongs to no boy. And you know exactly what they meant with that. Like, oh my god. Like, it's like, no, duh, it doesn't belong to a boy. It comes from Tinkerbell, who's a girl. Like, you don't need to say that out loud. It's so dumb.
Yeah, the same thing with the next one, which we'll discuss. Like, this movie, just everything about it was definitely like a Pinocchio, where it's like they took a look at it and they were like, we got to just dump it on Disney. We got to get rid of it as fast as we can.
It's soulless. It's ugly. This would be a 1 out of 10 movie for me if it wasn't for the fact that one scene was so hilarious. And I mean this in an ironic way. Hook actually kills Peter Pan, and he dies in the... Yeah, there's a scene where Hook actually kills Peter Pan. I show this in my review. Like, and it's a pretty graphic scene, too. Like, he slashes his sword, cuts Peter's chest open, like, blood pours out. Like, this is a very dark scene for a PG-rated movie. And, like... He falls like 10 stories and he falls through the floor. It looks like a cartoon. Like it's like a pratfall. Like it's so funny to me. Like it's so funny to me. And then you
I
have
did not hear anything about that. That
oh,
shocked me
it's
actually.
so funny. It's so hilariously bad. And there's another scene in the beginning of the movie that's almost like it. It's like there's a scene where like they're on this rocky outcrop and Hook spots them with his periscope or whatever it is, and he aims the cannons at them. And this whole time, Peter's like, "All right, here's the plan on how we fight Captain Hook." He's just going on about how they're gonna win the fight, they're gonna save the day, they're gonna kick Hook's butt and everything. And then Hook shoots one cannon and nails them. All that bragging, and they just get one shotted. It's the funniest thing in the world. Like that, like all right, that's pretty funny actually. If it
Maybe I'll
wasn't for
have to watch
those,
it.
if it wasn't for those slightly unironically, if it wasn't for those ironically funny scenes, this would be a 1 out of 10 movie. There's another funny scene where like one of the like when Peter comes back to life, which is the dumbest thing in the world too, by the way. One of the pirates just walks out and is like, "Really? Well, wake me up when one kills the other again." It's actually a pretty funny line. But yeah, so remember in the original, the Native Americans were seen as kind of a racist stereotype and a bad portrayal of
Yeah.
them. Well, in this movie, the Native Americans are still here. It's not as bad as the original, admittedly, but Tiger Lily shows up and like she like puts some like grass on his wound, his gaping chest wound, by the way, that's been bleeding out for like at the time she reaches him, it's implied to have been like hours. He's been bleeding out for hours. This kid's dead for sure. She just places some like plants on his like some spinach leaves on his chest. She just presses it, and he's healed. He's magically right as rain. He's perfectly fine. So what? The Native Americans have magic in this movie? I'm like, all right. I don't know if that's racist or not. But then, funny enough, later in the movie, near the end, when Peter Pan comes back for the final showdown with Hook, Peter's like, it's like, how did you survive? What kind of spell did you use, boy? And Peter says, no magic, just a little help from my friends. Dude, you used magic. What are you talking about? You clearly had magic help you save your life. Are you serious? Like, I guess the whole point is that Peter's supposed to go through an arc about learning to appreciate his friends. But, like, that, because, like,
I never even liked the original.
I love the original. I think it's a great movie. It's very comedic and fun and energetic. Like, it's very lighthearted compared to other Disney movies, but it's a good movie. I, but it's just so funny to me. This movie, like, makes, because here's the thing. In the original, Peter Pan is a kid. He's like a 10 or 11-year-old boy, you know? And, like, he does some shady things, admittedly, in the original, but that's, like, the point, because he's a kid. He doesn't have any responsibilities. He doesn't have to learn a lesson. But in this movie, they make Peter so detached from reality, so unlikable, solely for the sake of making Wendy look like a strong female character. Because Wendy's super confident, she's super strong, she knows better, and it's just so annoying. It's like you know exactly why they're doing that, but oh my god, I've reviewed this movie already. It's so awful.
Sounds like that's your Pinocchio, man.
Oh yeah, this is my Pinocchio for sure. Like they just there's this other weird plot hole with Hook in his backstory. Hook used to be a lost boy in this movie. Like Hook used to be a lost boy at one point, but then Peter kicked him out because he missed his mom. Like he was missing his mom, so he kicked him out, and Hook went off to try and find his mom, only to come back for some reason because he was never able to find her. Which I don't like that idea, because I like the idea that Hook is just a grown man who never actually grew up mentally. Because in the original, he's a kid at heart. Like in the original animated version, he's a child at heart because he's very skittish, he's very childish, he's very immature. He also bears no responsibility. He's a perfect reflection of someone who never grew up in Neverland. You know, that's what makes him such a great foil to Peter, because Peter is a child who just doesn't have to grow up, while Hook is an adult who never grew up. They're a great foil for each other, you know? And Hook hates Peter because, he being an adult, he ran away to Neverland because he doesn't want to bear that responsibility. But he met Peter, who cut his hand off, and now he has to live with a hook for the rest of his life. So that's what I'm talking about. It's like in this version, they try to make Hook more sympathetic and give him a backstory and stuff.
I hate that. Just make a hateable villain, man.
Well, yeah, Hook's a hateable villain, but he's also very funny too. He's like a child at heart, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot like I don't like I don't like recently, like, and there's been a few exceptions, like you have Thanos, for example. That's the one that everyone likes to bring up. But I don't like it when you try to make someone super sympathetic uh, for their villainy. I think it just detracts from them being a villain. You want to hate the villain. You want to root for the hero. It's kind of hard to do that when all of a sudden they make it a mopey backstory for the villain.
Right. I think that was kind of the point, though. He's so deluded in seeing himself as this great savior of the universe. Like, I don't think people are supposed to relate with his backstory. It's more of just, like, in his own sick way, he did care about Gamora as he was killing her. But, like, obviously, the point is still very well made that he's doing a terrible thing. Like, we don't relate with him because, like, oh, we feel for him. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, you don't, like, I don't get it. I would never kill my daughter to take over the universe or whatever. It's more of just showing off how deluded and insane he is. Like, to the point where he is willing to kill his own daughter for the sake of his goals. You know, like, he's willing to go that far, and that's what makes him such a great villain, in my opinion, that he's willing to go that far and sacrifice so much of what he personally holds dear for the sake of his goals. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I kind of always liked Thanos, but I know a lot of people like to bring up Thanos for, like, the relatable villains type. It's like, come on.
But anyway, that's all I gotta say about it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm probably never gonna watch it. I'll look up those scenes though. I'm gonna watch.
Watch my review because I showed the scene and like I showed the scene brightened too.
I will watch your review though once I'm done. All right. So recently, the most recent one that has come out is 2023's The Little Mermaid.
I reviewed that actually, and
I don't mind this one as much.
It's definitely it's not as bad as some people made it out to be. It's not as bad as Pinocchio, Peter Pan and Wendy, Mulan 2020. It is admittedly better than them. I still found it to be mostly just a very forgettable movie. It's a remake that exists, and that's really the best way to sum it up. It feels more in line with, like, the older ones, like Alice in Wonderland, Beauty and the Beast, and levels of quality in that. It's just a movie that exists. I don't have any strong feelings towards it either way. I don't think it improves anything on the original. I don't think it's a detriment to any of the original things in either. Like, I just don't care. I guess the only thing that was kind of an eye roll moment was when Ariel was the one who kills Ursula in the end. It's like that was clearly like some like making a woman stronger than she has to be kind of thing. It's like, all right, it's just kind of whatever.
I didn't really care. The only thing I didn't like at all, like I was cringing in my seat, was the Scuttlebutt song.
That was awful. Like, yeah, that was terrible.
I was like, no!
This is... Like, Lynn, how do you go from Encanto to this? This is so embarrassing for you.
Yeah, and it's one of those sections of the movie you can just take right out.
You don't need it. It's such a pointless song. No one was asking for a song from the... It was a running gag that the sequel couldn't sing in the original, so why are you giving them a full song? Especially when you cast one of the most annoying actors alive today, Awkwafina, as the character. Like, seriously.
I don't mind Awkwafina, but she's just been used way too often. So she's just gotten to the point where it's like, all right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then of course they had Melissa. What's her last name? Melissa Hutcherson or something as
Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, another very annoying actor. I just do not care for or like.
I don't like her, but I don't think she was bad as Ursula.
She's not. This isn't the worst role she's been in, but I'm not a fan of her at all.
Yeah, I think that it was okay. I liked it when it first came out because I had subscribed to like the free tickets where you pay like $15 a month and you get like 3 free tickets a week. So I went and saw it twice in the theater just because I could. It was free. I didn't think it was that bad. The only thing that I will say is that all of a sudden, right at the end of the movie, when Ursula becomes big, there's this sudden drop off in CGI quality. Like everything about the movie, I thought was pretty good quality wise. Like the hair, everything underwater, I thought it was pretty colorful. Like Under the Sea, I thought was pretty fun. But the minute Ursula started to grow big, everything with the CGI just was terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Like I said, I've only seen this movie once, and that was back when it came out in theaters, so I don't really remember. Like I said, I don't have any strong feelings for it. I do remember looking back and laughing that all of Triton's daughters were mixed race characters. We're all like different various ethnicities. And I just thought
Hey man, that guy gets around.
I just took that off as that guy heard the phrase "there's plenty of efficiency" and just rolled with that literally. Like he rolled with that
Yeah,
literally. Like
and I
that's
think they're meant to be like like
they're
that's
from
how they're
different
supposed to be.
because in the
Like the
original
different
they represent the seven seas. So in this version, it makes
Yeah.
sense that they're representative of their seas. Because like you have one that's
Yeah.
from Middle East, like there's a sea in the Middle East. There's one from Asia. There's like so one makes sense it's Asian, African girl. Like makes sense.
Yeah. And I didn't think it was bad. Like honestly, if I'm saying like it was okay.
I think it's just exist. I have no strong feelings for it whatsoever in any way. I don't know if I
Yeah.
call it okay, based mainly because of Scuttlebutt, but I would
You
say
take that
it
out of it, I would
exists.
say it's yeah.
Another remake that exists that I have no strong feelings towards, negative or positive. It exists, and that's all I had to say about it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's all of the live action remakes though that have been
So far,
released.
so far,
Yes.
we're gonna
We
get
won't get
more.
in we won't get into any of the stuff that's coming out, but I mean, we have a lot. Like Disney's tripling down on this stuff.
Yeah,
Out of
Mufasa,
out of
Hercules. I think they're doing. There's the Snow White one. Everyone is absolutely loathing and resenting right now.
she that movie wouldn't be as bad like if they just came out with the trailer for it. Cuz the trailer isn't terrible,
Well, you have
I'm
the
going to
fact.
say.
Well, you have the fact that all the dwarves are CGI when they could have had actors.
Yes. Yeah, and then I don't think it's terrible. It's just that everything surrounding the movie has been terrible. Like the leaked photos of the set, that was terrible publicity. Everything that Rachel has said surrounding the original film has been awful. So I think, yeah, I don't think the movie looks terrible. Like it looks like they fixed a lot of things, but it looks like you just kind of shrug your shoulders at it. It's like, eh.
And then we have Mufasa, which looks ugly as sin.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not looking forward to that one.
Yeah, because like what's like we're in. Let me guess how it ends. Mufasa becomes king. Scar resents him. Is that how it
I
ends?
just I don't care.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
don't care
Lion
either.
King.
You're also. I think they're gonna.
Um,
I think we're getting a Hunchback of Notre Dame live action remake, which is surprising given that Disney was very hesitant about the animated version.
I've never watched that movie all the way through because it's so bad.
The original animated one?
Like the animation is incredible. Like the shots of the churches and stuff are incredible.
It's an
That
amazing
someone
movie.
had I don't like it that much, man. I
What?
think it's boring. And like how
Dude.
everyone talks, it's I just did not. I was never a fan of the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Dude, it's an amazing movie. Quasi is such a great character. Phoebus is such a fun character. Frollo is probably the best Disney villain ever written. The music, save for one song, is phenomenal. The animation, as you said, is incredible. It's one of Disney's best. Are you like crazy?
I don't know. Like I don't know. I'd rather watch Hercules.
Well, Hercules is amazing too, but like Hunchback is amazing.
I don't know. I out of all these movies that are upcoming, so we have Mufasa, Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, Moana, which
Oh
that's
yeah, there's that.
insane that they're even doing that. Hercules, Bambi, Robin Hood, and the Aristocats.
Bambi better have Dwayne Rock Johnson in it.
What do you think is probably gonna be the best out of these? Or like
I guess I don't know. I say best so far. I guess Lilo and Stitch, but I'm honestly not excited for Lilo and Stitch. I saw the live action Stitch, and I was just not a fan of the design.
I just saw that movie for the first time a week ago. It's great.
The live action Stitch is, I mean, it's not bad. It's not inaccurate. It's just it doesn't look right to me with the eyes and stuff like that. It just doesn't look fully polished. I think that's a design that only really works with Chris Sanders' signature style and being in animation. Live action
We'll
it just
have to
doesn't work as
see.
well.
We'll have to see because that was like a Disney Plus production, and then it jumped to a theatrical release because that's when they just now announced it was going to be for theatrical now only. Um,
Oh, was
so
it?
I'm yeah, it was originally Disney Plus only, and then it was they just now announced that it's going to be for theaters only. I'm intrigued because, like you said, it's not a bad design. It doesn't invoke a Sonic the Hedgehog, feeling. but I think we'll have to wait to see the trailer, because I think once you have like the actual shadowing and shading on it, um, and him up against another CGI creature or one of the aliens, it might look good.
I hear you.
We haven't seen him with the 3 arms or the spikes or the tentacles or anything like that. So who knows?
He's got no tentacles. He's got 4 arms, but okay.
Oh, four. I just saw the movie a week ago, man. Give me a break. Yeah.
I'm just terrified to see what Jumbo and Pleakley will look like in CGI. That's gonna be kind of horrifying.
Yeah, that will be interesting. I want to see Bambi live action. I think that would actually be really good. You have to do it right. And I think they have an opportunity here. You ever see Bambi 2?
Yeah, I have.
It's good. I think they have a perfect opportunity here to combine Bambi with Bambi 2 in the live action movie. Not saying do a shot for shot, but there's things in Bambi 2 you could add to the original Bambi.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, maybe if it's like they go for like that Walking with Dinosaurs aesthetic or whatever, then maybe.
But all right, well, so Disney's live action output, it's interesting, that's for sure. It's not great.
It's a bag of quality for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, with most of it being
bad,
okay, or you shrug it off.
Yeah.
Your closing statement, Raisor?
I know in my reviews I come off as really pessimistic. On the one hand, can you blame me? Because these films just they never go above just okay in quality. They're always just the same movie every time. You know, like, what's even the point of these remakes? Just go watch the original. But on the other hand, I know there's still very talented, gifted people working on these movies, and this is all they're given to do. They're not allowed to branch out and explore and innovate and do new things. I know original ideas are still coming out of Disney. I know that, but they're very rare, and they're not coming out anymore as much as they should be.
Yeah, for every Encanto, you have 9 remakes or sequels or different projects.
We at least got Inside Out 2 this year, which was great. And even though it's a sequel, I know, but that was a really good movie, actually.
I didn't see it yet.
It's actually a really good sequel. It's actually really great.
Okay, good. I'm glad, because the original is Pixar's. Finally, they were doing something good.
Right. I just want to make it clear, I'm not bagging on any of the people who made these movies specifically. I'm only dunking on the executives at Disney who are greedy, selfish, and have no artistic merit whatsoever. Basically, the people that thought Wish was a good film at the end of the day, yeah, no, forget them. Yeah. But anyway, that's my closing statements. I'm done.
Good.